The first tooth. I, sister. Through the house, what busy joy. Just because the infant boy has a tiny tooth to show. I have got a double row, all as white and all as small. Yet no one cares for mine at all. He can say but half a word, yet that single sounds preferred to all the words that I can say in the longest summer day. He cannot walk, yet if he puts with mimic motion out his foot, as if he thought he were advancing, it's prized more than my best dancing. Brother, sister, I know you jesting are, yet oh, of jealousy beware. Illustration. If the smallest seed should be in your mind of jealousy, it will spring and it will shoot, till it bear the baneful fruit. I remember you, my dear, young as is this infant here. There was not a tooth of those, your pretty even ivory rose, but as anxiously was watched, till it burst its shell new hatched, as if it a phoenix were, or some other wonder rare. So when you began to walk, so when you began to talk, as now the same encomiums past, 'tis not fitting this should last longer than our infant days. A child is fed with milk and praise. Illustration. The boy and the skylark, a fable. Roman 2. A wicked action fear to do, when you are by yourself, for though you think you can conceal it, a little bird that's in the air, the hidden trespass shall declare, and openly reveal it. Richard this saying oft had heard, until the sight of any bird would set his heart a-quaking. He saw a host of winged spies, forever o'er him in the skies, note of his actions taking. This pious precept, while it stood in his remembrance, kept him good, when nobody was by him. For though no human eye was near, yet Richard still did wisely fear the little bird should spy him. Illustration. But best resolves will sometimes sleep. Poor frailty will not always keep from that which is forbidden. And Richard one day, left alone, laid hands on something not his own, and hoped the theft was hidden. His conscience slept a day or two, as it is very apt to do, when we with pain suppress it. And though at times a slight remorse would raise a pang, it had not force to make him yet confess it. When on a day, as he abroad walked by his mother in their road, he heard a skylark singing. Smit with the sound, a flood of tears proclaimed the superstitious fears, his inmost bosom ringing. His mother, wondering, saw him cry, and fondly asked the reason why. Then Richard made confession, and said he feared the little bird he singing in the air had heard was telling his transgression. The words which Richard spoke below, as sounds by nature upwards go, were to the skylark carried. The airy traveller with surprise, to hear his sayings in the skies, on his mid-journey tarried. His anger then the bird expressed. Sure, since the day I left the nest, I ne'er heard folly uttered, so fit to move a skylark's mirth, as what this little son of earth hath in his grossness muttered. Dull fool, to think we sons of air on man's low actions waste a care, his virtues or his vices, or soaring on the summer gales, that we should stoop to carry tales of him or his devices. Mistaken fool, man needs not us his secret merits to discuss, or spy out his transgression, when once he feels his conscience stirred. That voice within him is the bird that moves him to confession. The rainbow. Roman 3. After the tempest in the sky, how sweet yon rainbow to the eye. Come, my Matilda, now while some few drops of rain are yet to come, in this honeysuckle bower, safely sheltered from the shower, we may count the colors o'er. 7 there are no more, each in each so finely blended, where they begin or where are ended, the finest eye can scarcely see. A fixed thing it seems to be, but while we speak, see how it glides away, and now observe it hides half of its perfect arch. Now we scarce any part of it can see. What is color? If I were a natural philosopher, I would tell you what does make this meteor every color take. Illustration. But an unlearned eye may view nature's rare sights and love them too. Whenever I a rainbow see, each precious tint is dear to me, for every color find I there. Which flowers, which fields, which ladies wear, my favorite green, the grass's hue, and the fine deep violet blue, and the pretty pale bluebell, and the rose I love so well. All the wondrous variations of the tulip, pinks, carnations. This woodbine here, both flower and leaf, 'tis a truth that's past belief, that every flower and every tree, and every living thing we see, every face which we espy, every cheek and every eye, in all their tints, in every shade, are from the rainbow's colors made. Illustration. Queen Oriana's Dream. Roman 4. On a bank with roses shaded, whose sweet scent the violets aided, violets whose breath alone yields but feeble smell or none. Sweeter bed Jove ne'er reposed on, when his eyes Olympus closed on, while o'erhead 6 slaves did hold canopy of cloth o' gold, and 2 more did music keep, which might Juno lull to sleep. Oriana, who was queen to the mighty Tamerlane, that was lord of all the land, between Thrace and Samarcand, while the noontide fervor beamed, mussed herself to sleep and dreamed. Thus far, in magnific strain, a young poet soothed his vein, but he had nor prose nor numbers to express a princess' slumbers. Youthful Richard had strange fancies, was deep versed in old romances, and could talk whole hours upon the great Cam and Prester John, tell the field in which the Safa from the Tartar won a trophy. What he read with such delight of, thought he could as easily write of, but his overyoung invention kept not pace with brave intention. 20 suns did rise and set, and he could no further get, but unable to proceed, made a virtue out of need, and his labors wiselier deemed of, did omit what the queen dreamed of. Illustration. The sister's expostulation on the brother's learning Latin. They shut these odious books up, brother. They have made you quite another thing from what you used to be. Once you liked to play with me. Now you leave me all alone, and are so conceited grown. With your Latin you'll scarce look upon any English book we had used on winter eves to con over Shakespeare's leaves, or on Milton's harder sense. Exercise our diligence, and you would explain with ease the obscure passages, find me out the prettiest places, the poetic turns and graces, which, alas, now you are gone, I must puzzle out alone. Illustration. And oft miss the meaning quite, wanting you to set me right. All this comes since you've been under your new master. I much wonder what great charm it is you see in those words, musa, muse, or in what do they excel? Our word song, it sounds as well to my fancy as the other. Now believe me, dearest brother, I would give my finest frock, and my cabinet and stock of new playthings, every toy, I would give them all with joy, could I you returning see, back to English and to me. Illustration. The brothers reply. Romans 6. Sister, fie for shame, no more. Give this ignorant babble o'er, nor with little female pride things above your sense deride. Why this foolish underrating of my first attempts at Latin? Know you not each thing we prize does from small beginnings rise? 'Twas the same thing with your writing, which you now take such delight in. First you learnt the downstroke line, then the hairstroke thin and fine, then a curve and then a better, till you came to form a letter. Then a new task was begun, how to join them two in one, till you got these first steps passed, to your fine text hand at last. So though I at first commence with the humble accidents, and my studies course affords little else as yet but words, I shall venture in a while at construction, grammar, style, learn my syntax and proceed classic authors next to read, such as wiser, better make us, Sallust, P.H. Drews, Ovid, Flaccus, all the poets with their wit, all the grave historians writ, who the lives and actions show of men famous long ago, even their very sayings giving in the tongue they used when living. Think not I shall do that wrong, either to my native tongue, English authors to despise, or those books which you so prize, though from them a while I stray, by new studies called away. Them when next I take in hand, I shall better understand, for I've heard wise men declare, many words in English are from the Latin tongue derived, of whose sense girls are deprived, cause they do not Latin know. But if all your anger grow from this cause that you suspect, by proceedings indirect, I would keep as miser's pelf all this learning to myself. Sister, to remove this doubt, rather than we will fall out, if our parents will agree, you shall Latin learn with me. Illustration. On the Lord's Prayer. Romans 7. I have taught your young lips the good words to say over, which form the petition we call the Lord's Prayer. And now let me help my dear child to discover the meaning of all the good words that are there. Our Father, the same appellation is given to a parent on earth and a parent of all. O gracious permission, the God that's in heaven allows his poor creatures him Father to call. To hallow his name is to think with devotion of it, and with reverence mention the same. Though you are so young, you should strive for some notion of the awe we should feel at the Holy One's name. His will done on earth as it is done in heaven is a wish and a hope we are suffered to breathe, that such grace and favor to us may be given. Like good angels, on high we may live here beneath. Our daily bread give us, your young apprehension may well understand, is to pray for our food. Although we ask bread, and no other thing mention, God's bounty gives all things sufficient and good. You pray that your trespasses may be forgiven. as you forgive those that are done unto you. Before this, you say to the God that's in heaven, consider the words which you speak, are they true? If anyone has in the past time offended us angry creatures who soon take offense, these words in the prayer are surely intended to soften our minds and expel wrath from thence. Illustration. We pray that temptations may never assail us, and deliverance beg from all evil we find. But we never can hope that our prayer will avail us, if we strive not to banish ill thoughts from our mind. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory. For ever and ever these titles are meant to express God's dominion and majesty o'er ye. And Amen to the sense of the whole gives assent. Illustration. Illustration. David in the cave of Adullam. Roman 8. David and his 3 captains bold kept ambush once within a hold. It was in Adullam's cave, nigh which no water they could have, nor spring nor running brook was near, to quench the thirst that parched them there. Then David, king of Israel, straight bethought him of a well, which stood beside the city gate, at Bethlehem, where before his state of kingly dignity he had oft drunk his fill, a shepherd lad. But now his fierce Philistine foe encamped before it, he does know. Yet ne'ertheless, with heat oppressed, those 3 bold captains he addressed, and wished that one to him would bring some water from his native spring. His valiant captains instantly to execute his will did fly. Those 3 brave men the ranks broke through, of armed foes and water drew. For David, their beloved king, at his own sweet native spring, back through their enemies they haste, with the hard-earned treasure graced, what with such danger they had sought, with joy unto their king they brought. But when the good King David found what they had done, he on the ground the water poured, because, said he, that it was at the jeopardy of your 3 lives this thing ye did, that I should drink it God forbid. Illustration. Cleanliness. Roman 9. Come, my little Robert, near. Fie, what filthy hands are here. Who that e'er could understand the rare structure of a hand, with its branching fingers fine, work itself of hands divine, strong yet delicately knit, for 10,000 uses fit, overlaid with so clear skin, you may see the blood within. Who this hand would choose to cover with a crust of dirt all over, till it looked in hue and shape like the forefoot of an ape. Man or boy that works or plays in the fields or the highways may without offense or hurt from the soil contract a dirt, which the next clear spring or river washes out and out forever. Illustration. But to cherish stains impure, soil deliberate to endure, on the skin to fix a stain, till it works into the grain, argues a degenerate mind, sordid, slothful, ill-inclined, wanting in that self-respect, which does virtue best protect. All-endearing cleanliness, virtue next to godliness, easiest, cheapest, needful's duty, to the body health and beauty. Who that's human would refuse it, when a little water does it. Illustration. To a river in which a child was drowned. Legs. Smiling river, on thy bosom sunbeams play, though they're flating and retreating, thou hast more deceit than they. In thy channel, choked with ooze and gravelly stones, Deep immersed and unhearsed lies young Edward's corse, his bones, ever whitening, as thy waves against them dash. What thy torrent in the current swallowed, now it helps to wash. As if senseless, things had failing in this case. What so blindly and unkindly it destroyed, it now does grace. The boy and snake. Henry was every morning fed with a full mess of milk and bread. One day the boy his breakfast took and ate it by a purling brook. His mother lets him have his way with free leave Henry every day. Thither repairs until she heard him talking of a fine grey bird. This pretty bird, he said, indeed, came every day with him to feed. And it loved him and loved his milk, and it was smooth and soft like silk. On the next morn she follows Harry, and carefully she sees him carry through the long grass his heaped-up mess. What was her terror and distress when she saw the infant take his bread and milk close to a snake. Upon the grass he spreads his feast, and sits down by his frightful guest, who had waited for the treat. And now they both began to eat. Fond mother, shriek not, oh beware! The least small noise, oh have a care! The least small noise that may be made, the wily snake will be afraid. If he hear the slightest sound, he will inflict th envenomed wound. She speaks not, moves not, scarce does breathe, as she stands the trees beneath. No sound she utters, and she soon sees the child lift up his spoon and tap the snake upon the head, fearless of harm. And then he said, as speaking to familiar mate, keep on your own side, do, grey pate. The snake then to the other side, as one rebuked, seems to glide, and now again advancing nigh. Again she hears the infant cry, tapping the snake, keep further do. Mind, grey pate, what I say to you. The danger's o'er, she sees the boy. Oh, what a change from fear to joy. Rise and bid the snake goodbye. Says he, our breakfast is done, and I will come again tomorrow day. Then lightly tripping, ran away. Illustration. The beasts in the tower. Roman 12. Within the precincts of this yard, each in his narrow confines barred, dwells every beast that can be found, on Afric or on Indian ground. How different was the life they led in those wild haunts where they were bred to this tame servitude and fear. Enslaved by man, they suffer here. In that uneasy close recess couches a sleeping lioness. That next den holds a bear, the next a wolf by hunger ever vexed. There, fiercer from the keeper's lashes, his teeth the fell hyena gnashes. That creature on whose back abound black spots upon a yellow ground, a panther is the fairest beast that haunteth in the spacious east. He underneath a fair outside does cruelty and treachery hide. That cat-like beast that to and fro, restless as fire, does ever go, as if his courage did resent his limbs in such confinement pent, that should their prey in forest take, and make the Indian jungles quake. A tiger is, observe how sleek and glossy smooth his coat, no streak on satin ever matched the pride of that which marks his furry hide. How strong his muscles he with ease upon the tallest man could seize, in his large mouth away could bear him, and into 1,000 pieces tear him. Yet cabined so securely here, the smallest infant need not fear. that lordly creature next to him. A lion is, survey each limb. Observe the texture of his claws, the massy thickness of those jaws, his mane that sweeps the ground in length, like Samson's locks betokening strength. In force and swiftness he excels each beast that in the forest dwells. The savage tribes him king confess throughout the howling wilderness. Woe to the hapless neighborhood when he is pressed by want of food, of man or child or bull or horse. He makes his prey, such is his force. A waste behind him he creates, whole villages depopulates. Yet here within appointed lines, how small a great his rage confines. This place, methinks, resembleth well the world itself in which we dwell. Perils and snares on every ground, like these wild beasts, beset us round. But Providence their rage restrains. Our heavenly keeper sets them chains. His goodness saveth every hour his darlings from the lion's power. Illustration. Illustration. Time spent in dress. Romans 13. In many a lecture, many a book, you all have heard, you all have read. That time is precious of its use. Much has been written, much been said. There's not a more productive source of waste of time to the young mind than dress as it regards our hours. My view of it is now confined. Without some calculation, youth may live to age and never guess that no one study they pursue takes half the time they give to dress. Write in your memorandum book the time you at your toilette spend, then every moment which you pass talking of dress with a young friend, and ever when your silent thoughts have on this subject been intent, set down as nearly as you can how long on dress your thoughts were bent. Illustration. If faithfully you should perform this task, 'twould teach you to repair lost hours by giving unto dress not more of time than its due share. Illustration. A ballad noting the difference of rich and poor. A ballad noting the difference of rich and poor in the ways of a rich noble's palace and a poor workhouse, to the tune of the old and young courtier. Romans 14. In a costly palace youth goes clad in gold. In a wretched workhouse age's limbs are cold. There they sit, the old men by a shivering fire. Still close and closer cowering, warmth is their desire. In a costly palace, when the brave gallants dine, they have store of good venison, with old canary wine, with singing and music to heighten the cheer. Coarse bits with grudging are the pauper's best fare. In a costly palace youth is still caressed by a train of attendants which laugh at my young lord's jest. In a wretched workhouse the contrary prevails. Does age begin to prattle, no man hearkeneth to his tales. In a costly palace, if the child with a pin do but chance to prick a finger, straight the doctor is called in. In a wretched workhouse men are left to perish for want of proper cordials which their old age might cherish. In a costly palace youth enjoys his lust. In a wretched workhouse age, in corners thrust, thinks upon the former days when he was well-to-do, had children to stand by him, both friends and kinsmen too. In a costly palace youth his temples hides, with a new devised peruke that reaches to his sides. In a wretched workhouse age's crown is bare, with a few thin locks just to fence out the cold air. Illustration. In peace as in war, 'tis our young gallant's pride to walk each one eye the streets with a rapier by his side. that none to do them injury may have pretense. Wretched age in poverty must brook offense. Illustration. Illustration. The broken doll. Roman 15. An infant is a selfish sprite. But what of that, the sweet delight, which from participation springs, is quite unknown to these young things. We elder children then will smile at our dear little John a while, and bear with him until he see there is a sweet felicity in pleasing more than only one. Dear little craving, selfish John, he laughs and thinks it a fine joke that he our new wax doll has broke. Anger will never teach him better. We will the spirit and the letter of courtesy to him display, by taking in a friendly way these baby frolics till he learn true sport from mischief to discern. Reproof a parent's province is, a sister's discipline is this, by studied kindness to affect a little brother's young respect. What is a doll, a fragile toy? What is its loss, if the dear boy, who half perceives he's done amiss, retain impression of the kiss that followed instant on his cheek? If the kind, loving words we speak of never mind it, we forgive, if these in his short memory live, only perchance for half a day. Who minds a doll, if that should lay the first impression in his mind, that sisters are to brothers kind? For thus the broken doll may prove foundation to fraternal love. Illustration. Going into breeches. Romans 16. Joy to Philip, he this day has his long coats cast away, and the childish season gone. Put the manly breeches on. Officer on gay parade. Red coat in his first cockade. Bridegroom in his wedding trim. Birthday beau surpassing him. Never did, with conscious gait, strut about in half the state, or the pride, yet free from sin, of my little mannequin. Never was there pride or bliss half so rational as his. Sashes, frocks, to those that need 'em. Philip's limbs have got their freedom. He can run or he can ride, and do 20 things beside. Illustration. Which his petticoats forbade. Is he not a happy lad? Now he's under other banners. He must leave his former manners, bid adieu to female games, and forget their very names. Puss in corners, hide and seek, sports for girls and punies weak. Base the bear he now may play at, leapfrog football sport away at, show his skill and strength at cricket, mark his distance, pitch his wicket, run about in winter's snow, till his cheeks and fingers glow, climb a tree or scale a wall, without any fear to fall. If he get a hurt or bruise, to complain he must refuse, though the anguish and the smart go unto his little heart. He must have his courage ready, keep his voice and visage steady, brace his eyeballs stiff as drum, that a tear may never come, and his grief must only speak from the color in his cheek. This and more he must endure, hero he in miniature. This and more must now be done. Now the breeches are put on. Illustration. The three friends. Romans 17. 3 young maids in friendship met. Mary, Martha, Margaret. Margaret was tall and fair, Martha shorter by a hair. If the first excelled in feature, the other's grace and ease were greater. Mary, though to rival Lath, in their best gifts equaled both. they a due proportion kept. Martha mourned if Margaret wept. Margaret joyed when any good she of Martha understood, and in sympathy for either, Mary was outdone by neither. Thus far for a happy space, all three ran an even race, a most constant friendship proving, equally beloved and loving, all their wishes, joys the same, sisters only, not in name. Fortune upon each one smiled, as upon a favorite child. Well-to-do and well-to-see were the parents of all three, till on Martha's father crosses brought a flood of worldly losses, and his fortunes rich and great changed at once to low estate, under which o'erwhelming blow Martha's mother was laid low, she a hapless orphan left, of maternal care bereft, trouble following trouble fast, lay in a sick bed at last. In the depth of her affliction, Martha now received conviction that a true and faithful friend can the surest comfort lend. Night and day with friendship tried, ever constant by her side, was her gentle Mary found, with a love that knew no bound, and the solace she imparted saved her dying, broken-hearted. In this scene of earthly things, not one good, unmixed springs. That which had to Martha proved a sweet consolation moved different feelings of regret in the mind of Margaret, she whose love was not less dear, nor affection less sincere, to her friend was by occasion of more distant habitation, fewer visits forced to pay her, when no other cause did stay her, and her Mary living nearer. Margaret began to fear her, lest her visits day by day Martha's heart should steal away, that whole heart she ill could spare her, where till now she'd been a sharer. From this cause with grief she pined, till at length her health declined. All her cheerful spirits flew, fast as Martha gathered new, and her sickness waxed sore, just when Martha felt no more. Illustration: Mary, who had quick suspicion of her altered friend's condition, seeing Martha's convalescence less demanded now her presence, with a goodness built on reason, changed her measures with the season, turned her steps from Martha's door, went where she was wanted more. All her care and thoughts were set now to tend on Margaret. Mary living twixt the two, from her home could oftener go, either of her friends to see, than they could together be. Truth explained is to suspicion evermore the best physician. Soon her visits had the effect, all that Margaret did suspect, from her fancy vanished clean. She was soon what she had been, and the color she did lack to her faded cheek came back. Wounds which love had made her feel, love alone had power to heal. Martha, who the frequent visit now had lost and sore did miss it, with impatience waxed cross, counted Margaret's gain her loss. All that Mary did confer on her friend thought due to her, in her girlish bosom rise little foolish jealousies, which into such rancor wrought. She one day for Margaret sought, finding her by chance alone, she began, with reasons shown, to insinuate a fear whether Mary was sincere, wished that Margaret would take heed, whence her actions did proceed. For herself she'd long been minded, not with outsides to be blinded. All that pity and compassion she believed was affectation, In her heart she doubted whether Mary cared a pin for either. She could keep whole weeks at distance and not know of their existence, while all things remained the same. But when some misfortune came, then she made a great parade, illustration of her sympathy and aid. Not that she did really grieve. It was only make-believe. And she cared for nothing, so she might her fine feelings show and get credit on her part for a soft and tender heart. With such speeches smoothly made, she found methods to persuade Margaret, who, being sore from the doubts she'd felt before, was prepared for mistrust, to believe her reasons just, quite destroyed that comfort glad, which in Mary late she had, made her in experience spite, think her friend a hypocrite, and resolve with cruel scoff to renounce and cast her off. See how good turns are rewarded. She of both is now discarded, who to both had been so late, their support in low estate, all their comfort and their stay, now of both is cast away. But the league her presence cherished, losing its best prop, soon perished. She that was a link to either, to keep them and it together. Being gone, the two, no wonder, that were left soon fell asunder. Some civilities were kept, but the heart of friendship slept. Love with hollow forms was fed, but the life of love lay dead. A cold intercourse they held, after Mary was expelled. 2 long years did intervene, since they'd either of them seen, or by letter any word, of their old companion heard, when upon a day once walking, of indifferent matters talking, they a female figure met. Martha said to Margaret, "That young maid in face does carry a resemblance strong of Mary." Margaret at nearer sight owned her observation right, but they did not far proceed, ere they found 'twas she indeed. She, but I how changed they view her from that person which they knew her. Her fine face disease had scarred, and its matchless beauty marred, but enough was left to trace Mary's sweetness, Mary's grace. When her eye did first behold them, how they blushed, but when she told them how on a sick bed she lay, months while they had kept away, and had no inquiries made if she were alive or dead, how for want of a true friend she was brought near to her end, and was like so to have died, with no friend at her bedside, how the constant irritation caused by fruitless expectation of their coming had extended the illness when she might have mended. Then, oh then, how did reflection come on them with recollection, all that she had done for them, how it did their fault condemn. But sweet Mary, still the same, kindly eased them of their shame, spoke to them with accents bland, took them friendly by the hand, bound them both with promise fast, not to speak of troubles past, made them on the spot declare a new league of friendship there, which, without a word of strife, lasted thenceforth long as life. Martha now and Margaret strove who most should pay the debt which they owed her, nor did vary ever after from their Mary. Illustration. Memory. Roman 18. For gold could memory be bought, what treasures would she not be worth, if from afar she could be brought? I'd travel for her through the earth. This exclamation once was made by one who had obtained the name of young, forgetful Adelaide. And while she spoke, lo, memory came. If memory indeed it were, or such it only feigned to be. A female figure came to her, who said, my name is Memory. Gold purchases in me no share, nor do I dwell in distant land. Study and thought and watchful care, in every place may me command. I am not lightly to be won, a visit only now I make, and much must by yourself be done, ere me you for an inmate take. The only substitute for me was ever found is called a pen. The frequent use of that will be the way to make me come again. Illustration. Salome. Roman 19. Once on a charger there was laid, and brought before a royal maid, as price of attitude and grace, a guiltless head, a holy face. It was on Herod's natal day, who o'er Judah's land held sway. He married his own brother's wife. Wicked Herodias, she the life of John the Baptist long had sought, because he openly had taught that she a life unlawful led, having her husband's brother wed. This was he, that saintly John, who in the wilderness alone, abiding, did for clothing wear a garment made of camel's hair. Honey and locusts were his food, and he was most severely good. He preached penitence and tears, and waking first the sinner's fears, prepared a path, made smooth a way for his diviner master's day. Herod kept in princely state his birthday, on his throne he sate. After the feast, beholding her, who danced with grace peculiar, fair Salome, who did excel all in that land for dancing well. The feastful monarch's heart was fired, and whatsoe'er thing she desired, though half his kingdom it should be, he in his pleasure swore that he would give the graceful Salome. The damsel was Herodias' daughter. She to the queen hastes and besought her to teach her what great gift to name. Instructed by Herodias came the damsel back to Herod said, give me John the Baptist's head, and in a charger let it be hither straightway brought to me. Herod her suit would fain deny, but for his oath's sake must comply. Illustration. When painters would by art express beauty in unloveliness, thee, Herodias' daughter, thee they fittest subject take to be. They give thy form and features grace, but ever in thy beauteous face they show a steadfast cruel gaze, an eye unpitying and amaze. In all beholders deep they mark that thou betrayest not one spark of feeling for the ruthless deed that did thy praiseful dance succeed. For on the head they make you look as if a sullen joy you took, a cruel triumph, wicked pride, that for your sport a saint had died. Illustration. The page. Roman 20. Mama gave us a single peach. She shared it among 7. Now you may think that unto each but a small piece was given. Yet though each share was very small, we owned when it was eaten, being so little for us all, did its fine flavor heighten. The tear was in our parents' eye. It seemed quite out of season. When we asked wherefore she did cry, she thus explained the reason. The cause, my children, I may say, was joy and not dejection. The peach, which made you all so gay, gave rise to this reflection. Illustration. It's many a mother's lot to share 7 hungry children viewing a morsel of the coarsest fare, as I this peach was doing. Illustration. The Magpie's Nest, a Fable. The Magpie's Nest, a Fable. Roman 21. When the arts in their infancy were, in a fable of old days expressed, a wise magpie constructed that rare little house for young birds called a nest. This was talked of the whole country round. You might hear it on every bough sung. Now no longer upon the rough ground will fond mothers brood over their young. For the magpie, with exquisite skill, has invented a moss-covered cell, within which a whole family will, in the utmost security dwell. Illustration. To her mate did each female bird say, "Let us fly to the magpie, my dear, if she will but teach us the way. A nest we will build us up here. It's a thing that's close arched overhead, with a hole made to creep out and in. We, my bird, might make just a bed, if we only knew how to begin." Illustration. To the magpie soon every bird went, and in modest terms made their request, that she would be pleased to consent to teach them to build up a nest. She replied, "I will show you the way. So observe everything that I do. First 2 sticks cross each other I lay." "To be sure," said the crow, "why I knew it must be begun with 2 sticks, and I thought that they crossed should be." Said the pie, "Then some straw and moss mix, in the way you now see done by me." "Oh yes, certainly," said the jackdaw. "That must follow, of course, I have thought, though I never before building saw. I guess that, without being taught, more moss, more straw and feathers I place. In this manner," continued the pie. "Yes, no doubt, madam, that is the case, though no builder myself, so thought I." Illustration. Whatever she taught them beside, in his turn every bird of them said, though the nest-making art he ne'er tried, he had just such a thought in his head. Still the pie went on showing her art, till a nest she had built up halfway she no more of her skill would impart, but in her anger went fluttering away. And this speech in their hearing she made, as she perched o'er their heads on a tree: "If ye all were well skilled in my trade, pray why came ye to learn it of me? When a scholar is willing to learn, he with silent submission should hear. Too late they their folly discern. The effect to this day does appear. For whenever a pie's nest you see, her charming warm canopy view, all birds' nests but hers seem to be a magpie's nest just cut in two. Or I beg to inform my young readers that the magpie is the only bird that builds a top to the nest for her young." Illustration. Illustration. Nursing. Roman 22. "Oh hush, my little baby brother, sleep, my love, upon my knee. What though, dear child, we've lost our mother? That can never trouble thee. You are but 10 weeks old tomorrow. What can you know of our loss? The house is full enough of sorrow. Little baby, don't be cross. Peace, cry not so, my dearest love. Hush, my baby bird, lie still. He's quiet now, he does not move. Fast asleep is little Will. My only solace, only joy, since the sad day I lost my mother, is nursing her own Willie boy. My little orphan brother, the rook and the sparrows." Roman 23. "A little boy with crumbs of bread, many a hungry sparrow fed. It was a child of little sense, who this kind bounty did dispense. For suddenly 'twas from them torn, and all the birds were left forlorn, in a hard time of frost and snow, not knowing where for food to go. He would no longer give them bread, Because he had observed, he said, a great black bird, a rook by name, that sometimes to the window came, and took away a small bird's share. So foolish Henry did not care what became of the great rook, that from the little sparrows took, now and then, as 'twere by stealth, a part of their abundant wealth. Illustration. Nor evermore would feed his sparrows. Thus ignorance a kind heart narrows. I wish I had been there, I would have told the child, rooks live by food, in the same way the sparrows do. I also would have told him too. Birds act by instinct, and ne'er can attain the rectitude of man. Nay, that even when distress does on poor human nature press, we need not be too strict in seeing the failings of a fellow being. Illustration. Feigned courage. Roman 24. Horatio, of ideal courage vain, was flourishing in air his father's cane, and as the fumes of valor swelled his pate, now thought himself this hero, and now that. And now, he cried, I will Achilles be. My sword I brandish, see the Trojans flee. Now I'll be Hector, when his angry blade a lane through heaps of slaughtered Grecians made. And now my deeds, still braver I'll evince. I am no less than Edward the Black Prince. Give way, ye coward French, as thus he spoke, and aimed in fancy a sufficient stroke to fix the fate of Cressy or Poictiers. The muse relates the hero's fate with tears. He struck his milk-white hand against a nail, sees his own blood, and feels his courage fail. Illustration. Ah, where is now that boasted valor flown, that in the tented field so late was shown? Achilles weeps, great Hector hangs his head, and the Black Prince goes whimpering to bed. Illustration. Hester. Roman 25. When maidens such as Hester die, their place ye may not well supply, though ye among 1,000 try. With vain endeavor, a month or more hath she been dead, yet cannot I by force be led to think upon the wormy bed, and her together. A springy motion in her gait, a rising step did indicate, of pride and joy no common rate, that flushed her spirit. I know not by what name beside it may be called, if 'twas not pride. It was a joy to that allied she did inherit. Illustration. Her parents held the Quaker rule, which doth the human failing cool, but she was trained in nature's school. Nature had blessed her a waking eye, a prying mind. A heart that stirs is hard to bind. A hawk's keen sight ye cannot blind. Ye could not, Hester, my sprightly neighbor, gone before to that unknown and silent shore. Shall we not meet, as heretofore, some summer morning, when from thy cheerful eyes a ray hath struck a bliss upon the day, a bliss that would not go away, a sweet forewarning. Illustration. Helen. Roman 26. High-born Helen, round your dwelling these 20 years I've paced in vain. Haughty beauty, thy lover's duty hath been to glory in his pain. High-born Helen, proudly telling stories of thy cold disdain. I starve, I die, now you comply, and I no longer can complain. These 20 years I've lived on tears, dwelling forever on a frown. On sighs I've fed, your scorn my bread. I perish now, you kind are grown. Can I, who loved my beloved, but for the scorn was in her eye, can I be moved for my beloved, when she returns me sigh for sigh, in stately pride by my bedside? Highborn Helen's portraits hung. Deaf to my praise, my mournful lays are nightly to the portrait sung. Illustration. To that I weep, nor ever sleep, complaining all night long to her. Helen, grown old, no longer cold, said you to all men I prefer. Illustration. The beggar man. Roman 27. Abject, stooping, old and wan. See yon wretched beggar man. Once a father's hopeful heir, once a mother's tender care. When too young to understand, he but scorched his little hand by the candle's flaming light, attracted, dancing, spiral bright, clasping fond her darling round. 1,000 kisses healed the wound. Now abject, stooping, old and wan, no mother tends the beggar man. Illustration. The beggar man. Illustration. Then not too good for him to wear, with cherub face and flaxen hair, in fancy's choicest gauds arrayed, cap of lace with rose to aid, milk-white hat and feather blue, shoes of red and coral too, with silver bells to please his ear, and charm the frequent ready tear. Now abject, stooping, old and wan, neglected is the beggar man. See the boy advance in age, and learning spreads her useful page. In vain for giddy pleasure calls, and shows the marbles, tops and bowls. What's learning to the charms of play? Indulgent tutor must give way. A heedless, wilful dunce, and wild, the parents' fondness spoiled the child. The youth in vagrant courses ran, now abject, stooping, old and wan. Their fondling is the beggar man. Illustration. Breakfast. Roman 28. A dinner party, coffee, tea, sandwich or supper, all may be in their way pleasant, but to me, not one of these deserves the praise. That welcomer of newborn days, a breakfast merits ever giving. Cheerful notice we are living, another day refreshed by sleep, when its festival we keep. Now, although I would not slight those kindly words we use, good night, yet parting words are words of sorrow, and may not vie with sweet good morrow, with which again our friends we greet, when in the breakfast room we mate, at the social table round, listening to the lively sound of those notes which never tire, of urn or kettle on the fires. Illustration. Sleepy Robert never hears, or urn or kettle he appears, when all have finished, one by one, dropping off and breakfast done. Yet has he too his own pleasure, his breakfast hours his hour of leisure, and left alone he reads or muses, or else in idle mood he uses to sit and watch the venturous fly, where the sugars piled high, clambering o'er the lumps so white, rocky cliffs of sweet delight. Illustration. The coffee slips. Roman 29. Whene'er I fragrant coffee drink, I on the generous Frenchman think, whose noble perseverance bore the tree to Martinico's shore, while yet her colony was new, her island products but a few. 2 shoots from off a coffee tree he carried with him o'er the sea, each little tender coffee slip he waters daily in the ship, and as he tends his embryo trees, feels he is raising midst the seas coffee groves whose ample shade shall screen the dark Creolian maid. But soon, alas, his darling pleasure in watching this his precious treasure. Illustration. Is like to fade, for water fails on board the ship in which he sails. Now all the reservoirs are shut, the crew on short allowance put. So small a drop is each man's share. Few leavings you may think there are to water these poor coffee plants, but he supplies their gasping wants, even from his own dry parched lips. He spares it for his coffee slips. Water he gives his nurslings first, ere he allays his own deep thirst, lest if he first the water sip, he bear too far his eager lip. He sees them droop for want of more, yet when they reach the destined shore, with pride the heroic gardener sees a living sap still in his trees. The islanders his praise resound, coffee plantations rise around, and Martinico loads her ships with produce from those dear saved slips. B. The name of this man was Desclus, and the story is to be found in the Ab Reynolds history of the settlements and trade of the Europeans in the East and West Indies, written in the first leaf of a child's memorandum book. XXX. My neat and pretty book, when I thy small lines see, they seem for any use to be unfit for me. My writing, all misshaped, uneven as my mind, within this narrow space can hardly be confined. Yet I will strive to make my hand less awkward look. I would not willingly disgrace thee, my neat book. The finest pens I'll use, and wondrous pains I'll take, and I these perfect lines my monitors will make, and every day I will set down in order due. How that day wasted is, and should there be a few at the year's end that show more goodly to the sight, if haply here I find some days not wasted quite, if a small portion of them I have passed aright, then shall I think the year not wholly was misspent, and that my diary has been by some good angel sent. Illustration. Envy. Roman 31. This rose tree is not made to bear the violet blue, nor lily fair, nor the sweet mignonette. And if this tree were discontent, or wished to change its natural bent, it all in vain would fret. And should it fret, you would suppose it ne'er had seen its own red rose, nor after gentle shower had ever smelled its rose's scent, or it could ne'er be discontent with its own pretty flower, like such a blind and senseless tree as I've imagined this to be. All envious persons are, with care and culture all may find some pretty flower in their own mind, some talent that is rare. Illustration. Dialogue between a mother and child. Roman 32. Child. O lady, lay your costly robes aside. No longer may you glory in your pride. Mother. Wherefore today art singing in mine ear? Sad songs were made so long ago, my dear. This day I am to be a bride, you know. Why sing sad songs were made so long ago? Child. O mother, lay your costly robes aside, for you may never be another's bride. That line I learned not in the old sad song. Mother. I pray thee, pretty one, now hold thy tongue. Play with the bridemaids, and be glad, my boy, for thou shalt be a second father's joy. Child. One father fondled me upon his knee. One father is enough, alone for me. Illustration. The first sight of green fields. Roman 33. Lately an equipage I overtook, and helped to lift it o'er a narrow brook. No horse it had, except one boy who drew his sister out in it, the fields to view. O happy town-bred girl, in fine chaise going, for the first time to see the green grass growing. This was the end and purport of the ride. I learned, as walking slowly by their side, I heard their conversation, often she Brother, is this the country that I see? The bricks were smoking, and the ground was broke. There were no signs of verdure when she spoke. He, as the well-informed, delight in chiding the ignorant, these questions still deriding. To his good judgment, modestly she yields, till brick kilns past, they reached the open fields. Then, as with rapturous wonder round she gazes, on the green grass, the buttercups and daisies. Illustration. This is the country, sure enough, she cries. Is't not a charming place? The boy replies. We'll go no further. No, says she, no, Ned. No finer place than this can be, indeed. I left them gathering flowers, the happiest pair that ever London sent to breathe the fine fresh air. Illustration. Lines suggested by a picture of two females by Leonardo da Vinci. Roman 34. The Lady Blanche, regardless of all her lover's fears, to the Ursuline convent hastens, and long the abbess hears. O Blanche, my child, repent ye of the courtly life ye led. Blanche looked on a rosebud, and little seemed to heed. She looked on the rosebud, she looked round and thought on all her heart had whispered, and all the nun had taught. I am worshipped by lovers, and brightly shines my fame. All Christendom resoundeth the noble Blanche's name. Nor shall I quickly wither, like the rosebud from the tree. My queen-like graces shining when my beauty is gone from me. But when the sculptured marble is raised o'er my head, and the matchless Blanche lies lifeless among the noble dead, this saintly lady abbess hath made me justly fear. It nothing will avail me that I was worshipped here. Illustration. Lines on the same picture being removed to make place for a portrait of a lady by Titian. Lines on the same picture being removed to make place for a portrait of a lady by Titian. Roman 35. Who art thou, fair one, who usurp'st the place of Blanche, the lady of the matchless grace? Come, fair and pretty, tell to me, who in thy lifetime thou mightst be. Thou pretty art and fair, but with the Lady Blanche thou never must compare. No need for Blanche her history to tell. Whoever saw her face, they there did read it well. But when I look on thee, I only know there lived a pretty maid some 100 years ago. Lines on the celebrated picture by Leonardo da Vinci, called the Virgin of the Rocks. Lines on the celebrated picture by Leonardo da Vinci, called the Virgin of the Rocks. Roman 36. While young John runs to greet the greater infant's feet, the mother standing by with trembling passion of devout admiration beholds the engaging mystic play and pretty adoration, nor knows as yet the full event of those so low beginnings, from whence we date our winnings, but wonders at the intent of those new rites and what that strange child worship meant. But at her side an angel doth abide, with such a perfect joy as no dim doubts alloy, an intuition, a glory, an amenity, passing the dark condition of blind humanity, as if he surely knew all the blessed wonders should ensue, or he had lately left the upper sphere, and had read all the sovereign schemes and divine riddles there. On the same. Roman 37. Maternal Lady, with the virgin grace, heaven-born thy Jesus seemeth sure, and thou a virgin pure. Lady most perfect, when thy sinless face men look upon, they wish to be a Catholic Madonna fair to worship thee, a vision of repentance. Roman 38. I saw a famous fountain in my dream, where shady pathways to a valley led. A weeping willow lay upon that stream, and all around the fountain brink was spread wide branching trees, with dark green leaf rich clad, forming a doubtful twilight, desolate and sad. The place was such that whoso entered in, disrobed, was of every earthly thought, and straight became as one that knew not sin, or to the world's first innocence was brought. And seemed it now he stood on holy ground, in sweet and tender melancholy wrapped around. A most strange calm stole o'er my soothed sprite. Long time I stood, and longer had I stayed, when lo, I saw by the sweet moonlight, which came in silence o'er that silent shade, where near the fountain something like despair made of that weeping willow garlands for her hair, and eke with painful fingers she enwove many an uncouth stem of savage thorn, the willow garland that was for her love, and these her bleeding temples would adorn. With sighs her heart nigh burst, salt tears fast fell, as mournfully she bended o'er that sacred well. To whom, when I addressed myself to speak, she lifted up her eyes and nothing said. The delicate red came mantling o'er her cheek, and gathering up her loose attire, she fled to the dark covert of that woody shade, and in her goings seemed a timid, gentle maid, revolving in my mind what this should mean, and why that lovely lady plained so, perplexed in thought at that mysterious scene, and doubting if 'twere best to stay or go. I cast mine eyes in wistful gaze around, when from the shades came slow a small and plaintive sound. Psyche am I, who love to dwell in these brown shades, this woody dell, where never busy mortal came, till now to pry upon my shame. At thy feet what thou dost see, the waters of repentance be, which night and day I must augment with tears like a true penitent, if haply so my day of grace be not yet past, and this lone place, or shadowy dark, excludeth hence all thoughts but grief and penitence. Why dost thou weep, thou gentle maid? And wherefore, in this barren shade, thy hidden thoughts with sorrow feed? Can things so fair repentance need? Oh, I have done a deed of shame, and tainted is my virgin fame, and stained the beauteous maiden white, in which my bridal robes were dight, and who the promised spouse declare, and what those bridal garments were. Severe and saintly righteousness composed the clear white bridal dress. Jesus, the Son of Heaven's high King, bought with his blood the marriage ring. A wretched sinful creature, I, deemed lightly of that sacred tie, gave to a treacherous world my heart, and played the foolish wanton's part. Soon to these murky shades I came, to hide from the sun's light my shame, and still I haunt this woody dell, and bathe me in that healing well, whose waters clear have influence from sin's foul stains the soul to cleanse, and night and day I them augment with tears like a true penitent, until due expiation made, and fit atonement fully paid, the Lord and bridegroom me present, wherein sweet strains of high consent, God's throne before the seraphim, shall chant the ecstatic marriage hymn. Now Christ restore thee soon, I said, and thenceforth all my dream was fled.